The United Methodist Cemetery sits quietly a mile north of Wyoming, Minnesota, its weathered headstones standing like silent sentinels against the changing seasons. On this autumn morning, as golden leaves drift across the graves, I find myself walking among the markers, thinking about Frederick and Fredericka Tepel, who in 1861 understood something profound about the importance of setting aside this sacred space. The morning fog rolls in from the surrounding fields, the same fields that the first settlers must have encountered when they arrived in Chisago County. Each name etched in stone represents a real person who helped build this community, though their individual stories may be lost to time unless preserved in family histories and official records. These aren't just names carved in stone. They're the foundation our community stands upon. Every marker represents someone who lived through the challenges of establishing a life in Minnesota Territory, which had only become a state 2 years before the Tepels deeded this land for the cemetery. The changing seasons pass over these graves as they have for over 160 years now. Generation after generation has come to this peaceful spot to remember their loved ones, each grave representing a unique but real life lived in this community. Some stones may be worn smooth by time, but each one marks the final resting place of someone who contributed to building the world we now inherit. Near the center of the cemetery, old trees spread their branches over graves spanning different eras. Their shade has offered comfort to mourners and visitors since the cemetery's earliest days, witnessing countless moments of grief and remembrance. These same trees would have been here when the first burials took place, when the Tepels first recognized the need for a proper cemetery to serve the growing community. This is why we need cemeteries, not just as a practical place to lay our loved ones to rest, but as a tangible reminder of our shared humanity and our obligations to both past and future generations. When Frederick and Fredericka Tepel deeded this land, they created more than just a burial ground. They established a bridge across time, a physical space where the past reaches out to touch the present. The stones here mark the resting places of early settlers, farmers who worked the surrounding land, community members who lived through the dramatic changes of the 19th and 20th centuries. While we may not know all their individual stories, we know that each one contributed to the tapestry of life in this region of Minnesota. As our society becomes increasingly virtual and disconnected from physical places, these sacred spaces become even more important. They remind us that we are part of something larger than ourselves, that we stand on the shoulders of countless others who lived, worked, loved, and died before us. They challenge us to consider what legacy we will leave for future generations. Walking among these graves, reading these names, we're reminded that our time here is finite, but our impact can be eternal. The choices we make, the lives we touch, the work we do, it all ripples forward through time in ways we can't imagine. Just as we benefit from the labors and sacrifices of those who came before, future generations will build upon our efforts. That's why we must remember the dead, not out of mere sentiment or tradition, but because their lives have something vital to teach us about our own. Every grave here represents a real person who once called this area home, who contributed in their own way to building the community we inherit today. They remind us to live with purpose, to build something worthy of remembrance, to care for our community as they did. As the sun sets over the United Methodist Cemetery, casting long shadows from the headstones across the carefully tended grass, I think about how this place connects us all, the living and the dead, the past and the present, the individual and the community. Frederick and Fredericka Tepel's gift continues to serve its vital purpose, not just as a resting place for the dead, but as a reminder to the living of our duty to remember, to honor, and to carry forward the work of building a better world for those who will come after us. We remember the dead because they remind us who we are, where we came from, and what we might become. In remembering them, we better understand ourselves and our own place in the great chain of human existence. Their stories, though many may be lost to time, still guide us forward, reminding us that we too will someday be ancestors, and that the choices we make today will echo in the lives of those who come after us.